Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul, and tonight we're going to continue our study on the universe power directors. We're on paper 29, section 4, paragraph 30. We're actually going to go back to 29. I want to reread that one tonight to get started, and that's on page 327 of the original Urantia book, if you're following us in the original Urantia book. And let's say a little prayer and we'll get started for the night. Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight that we might share this wonderful revelation with others. We thank you for the opportunity to do so. We thank you for the ability to listen and learn and share with one another that we might prepare ourselves for that which is to come. And we thank you for the ability to share it with our friends and family and our relatives and many people that we meet along the way. We thank you for your son. We thank you for our local universe mother spirit. We thank you for your daily guidance in each and every one of our lives. We say this in the name of your son, Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen.
Amen.
Hi, Jane. How you doing?
Hello. Sorry I'm late.
That's all right. We're going to have a small group. Diane's not joining us tonight, so it'll be us. Let's start on number 29. Transmitters form skillful liaisons. Rodney, would you like to start us there?
Yes, of course. Transmitters form skillful liaisons, which are effective in rehabilitating the weakening currents of specialized energy passing from planet to planet and from station to station on an individual planet. They can detect currents which are much too feeble to be recognized by any other type of living being. And they can so augment these energies that the accompanying message becomes perfectly intangible.
Intelligible.
Pardon me?
Intelligible, not intangible.
Intelligible.
Right.
Their services are invaluable to the broadcast receivers.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about this last time, the transmitters. The transmitters take these really light, feeble currents and use these currents. This is one of the 30 forms of energy that are out there available to all the 7 super universes. Now, we only know about what? Probably about 3 of them, right? We know about atomic energy. We know about magnetic energy. We know a little bit about fission and fusion, but that's about it as far as energy goes for us. So they're talking about the other energies that we don't know anything about. So what they're talking about here is the transmitters can manipulate one of these energies, which are really too small and feeble to be recognized by any other type of living creature. So these are very, very small energies, but what they can do with these energies is manipulate them so that all other beings, every single planet and every type of being, including us, eventually can use these energies to communicate both seen, visible energy and sound. So what we're talking about is just like Zoom, if you think about it, right? Pictures and sound. So, and we're going to find this out in the next paragraph here. So these services, the transmitters, are the beings that make this possible. Now, this is not talking about reflectivity, okay? Reflectivity is something totally different. That's a totally different circuit on its own. So let's go to the next paragraph. And actually, I'll take the next paragraph since there's so few of us tonight. Energy transmitters can function with regard to all forms of communicable perception. They can render a distant scene visible, as well as a distant sound audible. They provide the emergency lines of communication in the local systems and on the individual planets. These services must be used by practically all creatures for purposes of communication outside the regularly established circuits. What do you think they're talking about there? Yeah, Jane.
Are they talking even about thought energy?
Thought energy, that they're talking about that also, Jane. Any kind of communication from one being to another. Now, think about this, because this is important to us because we're in quarantine. Okay. So if we were not in quarantine, these transmitters could allow us to communicate to beings outside our planet.
Yeah.
Think that would be important? I would think so, right?
Yeah.
Think of it this way. These are the beings, when you get to the mansion worlds, okay, that'll allow you to talk to your relatives who are on other mansion worlds, your friends who are on other mansion worlds, or those who have gone before you that's on a higher level than you, and you will be able to communicate back to those in the first mansion worlds, all the way back. Makes sense?
Aren't
So
these emergency communication lines?
they take care of the emergency communication lines as well. That's right. But any transmission, this is why it says these service must be used by practically all creatures for purposes of communication outside the regularly established circuits. What would be a regularly established circuit? That would be reflectivity, right? Or the infinite spirit circuit, or the mind circuit, or any other circuit having to do with deity, right? But this is the type of circuit that would also allow us to communicate with each other. Makes sense? So these
So
beings allow us to do that. Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah.
Jane.
What about emotional energy?
Well,
Like there is I could have a feeling and you could pick it up through this?
that would probably be along the same line on a different level, right? You know, when they talk about the mind circuit and we are able to communicate over the mind circuit, that's a mental telepathy type thing, right? So that would probably include the emotional part of that.
Okay.
Right? Makes sense? All right.
Roger,
Yeah.
you know, I understand why this part of the universe was put into quarantine
Right.
because of the rebellion.
Uh-huh.
But to me, it looks like once those characters were arrested, that they would lift the quarantine.
No, they won't list. They specifically say this on in the book that the quarantine will not be lifted until adjudication has finished
And it completed.
and completed, right?
Right.
So until all the agents of the rebellion, I mean, every single angel, mortal, deity, anything that rebelled during the rebellion has to be adjudicated before they're re-established the circuits. Make sense? You know,
That won't be in our lifetime.
it probably won't be in our lifetime, but think about this. Think of the benefit that would be to every planet, including ours, if we could communicate outside our planet and get the status of other planets, how they're doing things, what's going on, you know, that sort of thing. We would feel like, as they say on Star Trek, a federation of planets, right? Because we would have communication outside our own world, right? So, you know, it's an important thing. They would what, Rodney?
I think we would be better off.
Oh, we would all be better off. We'd have a greater understanding of what's going on in the universe, right?
We would long for that to.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't be isolated anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
Wait, can I have a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Gary.
If we was not quarantined,
Right.
we could avail ourselves even at our primitive stage of these circuits.
Yes, we could, if we weren't in quarantine.
Okay, now, if it's gonna sound weird, these so-called UFO type beings, okay,
Uh-huh. Yeah,
if they're from an unquarantined planet,
right.
would they be communicating with each other using these circuits?
Constantly. Constantly, Gary. Yeah.
So
And
that's interesting.
probably
So,
why they don't communicate with us is they know we're in quarantine and they're not supposed to. They're not allowed. Right. Now,
Yes.
think about it this way. It's not only other sanctioned beings that we may be seeing, it may be celestial students also, right? Because once you leave this planet, you will have the opportunity to visit other planets along the same, you know, how would you say it? Along the same
Lateral.
stage as we are,
Plane?
to observe them, plane, the same plane, to observe them and that sort of thing. And when we get to the mansion worlds, part of our assignments will probably be to actually do that so that we can observe how normal planets come along and grow up, right? Because our situation is totally abnormal if you think about it, right? So they will want to teach us what a normal planet normally goes through and does through the evolutionary process so that we can learn the proper way to do things instead of the haphazard mess we've been through on this planet. Okay.
So Roger, what you're saying is the student visitors come to visit our planet to see what an abnormal planet is.
How it's not done. That's right. Right.
To learn what not to do.
To learn what not to do. You know, part of the, you wonder why there's evil in the world. Part of the reason there's evil in the world so that we can personally grow. If we did not observe the evil in the world around us, we would not have any comparison for that. So let me give you an example of that. If you lived on a planet you were raised on a planet in light and life, you wouldn't have the chaos and you wouldn't have the misadaptation of government. You wouldn't have all these things that's bad on this planet going on. So you wouldn't have a reference point for evil, only a reference point for good. You follow me? So in order for you to understand the good, you have to have a reference point for evil. Make sense?
wouldn't that apply to us in reverse?
Works both ways, Gary.
Yeah.
It really does. Think about it. All right. So these beings are there to help us communicate and understand, right? One of the many energy beings. Okay. Yeah, Jane.
But I guess even going beyond, like when there is no evil, there is still the good and the better, and there is always
Perfection too.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. It's always
The
there.
challenges are always going to be there.
The
Well, like
challenges are always there.
Jesus taught us that evil isn't innate.
No,
It is what is it?
it's the background. We think that evil is the normal and good is the exception. It's the opposite way. Good is the normal, evil is the exception. So really the universe is a good universe. That's the background, and evil is the exception in a good universe. Okay, not the other way around. There's very little evil. There's just enough evil to give us an example to learn. Okay. And the rest of the universe, everything, that's why Jesus said many times, I know that there is nothing in the universe which can harm me.
Right.
Right.
That he was
And we
convinced.
should, Yeah, we should feel the same way because we live in a good universe. We don't live in an evil universe. We think we do because we live in a planet that's in chaos, right?
Mhm.
I mean, think about it. Our family life's in chaos. Our personal lives are in chaos. Our learning is in chaos. Our educational system's in chaos. Our governments are definitely in chaos. Most of the world governments are not like that, are in chaos. They're playing at being governments and they don't understand that they need wisdom to move forward. Okay. And until we develop that wisdom, evolutionary wisdom over time, we're going to keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again. Why do y'all think there's war after war after war? Because we don't learn our lessons, right?
I disagree. I think there's war after war because we have a few powerful people that are greedy and don't care about life.
Yeah, of
That's
course.
part of not learning our lessons, Gary.
Mhm.
When people stop being greedy, when people stop taking government positions to make money instead of service. See, it's all about, Jesus taught us service, service, and more service. That's what the universe is about, right? Not getting in government positions to get rich, make money, and build yourself up. That's not what it's about. That's not service, is it? Service is going out there and putting yourself in positions and doing a job, not to benefit yourself, but to benefit whom?
The people.
People, everyone else. That's what
Mhm.
service is about, right? Boy, I got my
By the
preaching
people,
hat on
for
already.
the people, long forgotten.
Yes,
By the
that's right.
people, for the
For the
people,
people. That's
long
right.
forgotten.
Long forgotten. All right, let's go on to the next one. Letch, would you take the next one? These beings.
Okay, yeah. These beings, together with the energy transformers, are indispensable to the maintenance of mortal existence on those worlds having an impoverished atmosphere. And they are an integral part of the technique of life on the non-breathing planets.
So they actually help those beings on the non-breathing planets to survive. Okay, so these energy transmitters are pretty important. Let's go on to the next one, primary associators. Jane, would you take that one, please?
Okay, primary associators. These interesting and invaluable entities are masterly energy conservators and custodians. Somewhat as a plant stores solar light, so do these living organisms store energy during times of plus manifestations. They work on a gigantic scale, converting the energies of space into a physical state not known on Urantia. They are also able to carry forward these transformations to the point of producing some of the primitive units of material existence. These beings simply act by their presence. They are in no way exhausted or depleted by their function. They act like living catalytic agents.
Do y'all understand what they're talking about? This plant energy stored?
No.
Like a
Plants,
capacitor.
yeah, like a capacitor, or the plants store solar light. They take in
Oh,
solar light, they convert
yes.
it to energy. We eat the plants, we convert that energy into a usable form and that sustains our life. Okay.
Mhm.
So these primary associators do much the same thing in a physical state in a way in which we don't even know about on Urantia, on our world. Okay. So just being here, they become like Rodney just said, just like capacitors that store this energy, material energy till it's needed. And then just by their presence, that it comes out to make things function properly. So they act like catalytic agents.
Or maybe
Right?
more like a battery,
More like a battery,
a
really.
rechargeable battery.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it
right.
says by their presence.
Just present by their presence. That's right.
Yeah,
Gary,
they don't
would you take
input
the,
anything.
no, they don't. They just store it, and give it out, right? All right. Gary, would you take the next one?
Okay, during seasons,
Seasons.
yeah, during seasons of minus manifestations, they are empowered to release these accumulated energies. But your knowledge of energy and matter is not sufficiently advanced to make it possible to explain the technique of this phase of their work. They always labor in compliance with universal law, handling and manipulating atoms, electrons, and
Automatons.
automatons
Automatons, right.
as much as you maneuver adjustable types to make the same alphabet symbols tell vastly different stories.
Okay, so they can manipulate this energy and just by being there. Okay, and this is a picture of the primary associators. All right.
Now, Roger, I would like to comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because this was revealed to us 100 years ago,
Right.
whereas if it was revealed now, I believe they could have explained that part better to us.
They probably could have. They probably could have because we have a little bit more advanced knowledge. Not all that much, but enough to explain a little bit more than they have. So, of course, they're revelatory. They're limited by what they can reveal to us too. You know, so that may have something to do with it too. Also, right?
Yeah, but this book came out in the 1930s, or the information was presented to us in the 1930s, I believe, maybe 20s.
24 to 35. Yeah. From 1924 to
35.
35. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That is pre-atomic age.
It was. But we were on the cusp of the atomic age at about 1935. You know, it's kind of interesting because in the publication mandate, I'm trying to think of the Melchizedek's name. I think it was Nordis or something like that, Melchizedek. When he was asked why he had been gone for a year, his response was he was preventing World War III.
Hmm.
You know, which is in itself is an interesting statement in itself, and that was back in the 30s, right? So, you know, it makes you wonder, you know, if he was busy preventing World War III between 1934 and 1955, what else was going on that we weren't privy to, you know, we did not know. So, you know,
Where did you get this?
that was in the
information?
That was in the publication mandate. That if he did not return by 1955, January 1st, 1955, that the Urantia Foundation was authorized to publish the Urantia book in 1955, January. And that's exactly when they published it, was January 1st, 1955. So between 1935 and 1955, all the typesetting was done, everything was made ready, but they were not allowed to publish the book until 1955. Probably because what was going on during World War II. And like he said, he was probably trying to keep World War III from starting after World War II. So that would have been from 1945 to 1955.
He's the one that killed Patton.
May have. You never know.
You know,
I doubt that he killed him.
Patton wanted to continue right on into Russia.
That's right, he did. But the fact is this: they are probably, the Melchizedeks are probably busy doing the same exact thing when
Now,
right
right
you know,
now.
right, you know, it's an ongoing process.
It's like we're a bunch of ignorant kids down here.
That's right, a bunch of children, and somebody's got to spank us every now and then, you know. All right, let's go on to the associators. The associators, let's say, Rodney, I believe you're up again.
The associators are the first group of life to appear on an organizing material sphere. and they can function at physical temperatures, which you would regard as utterly incompatible with the existence of living beings. They represent an order of life which is simply beyond the range of human imagination. Together with their co-workers, the
Disassociators.
disassociators, they are the most slavish of all intelligent creatures.
So they're like automatic beings. This is a picture of extreme temperature of a planet. And these beings are able to function to get the atomic materials and everything working to start the planet on the way to evolution. Okay, getting the atoms, electrons, and ultimatons and everything going, getting it ready. And that's why they can withstand extreme temperatures, because when a planet starts, it's either really, really hot or really, really cold, one of the two. All right. It's going on to the secondary disassociators.
Is it saying that they're more like slaves?
They're almost like slaves, Rodney. That's exactly what it said. They're automatic beings. They do their job automatically. They don't have to think about it or anything else. It's second nature to them, right? You could think of them as in a sense, synthetic beings, right? If you watch Star Trek, they would be the types of beings that would be robots, right? They do things automatically. All right. Secondary disassociators. Lech, would you take this one?
Yeah, secondary disassociators. Compared with the primary associators, these beings of enormous anti-gravity endowment are the reverse workers. There is never any danger that the special or modified forms of physical energy on the local worlds or in the local systems will be exhausted, for these living organizations are endowed with the unique power of evolving limitless supplies of energy. They are chiefly concerned with the evolution of a form of energy which is hardly known on Urantia, from a form of matter which is recognized still less. They are truly the alchemists of space and the wonder workers of time. But in all the wonders they work, they never transgress the mandates of cosmic supremacy.
Well read, Lech. That was not an easy paragraph to get through. Okay, the secondary disassociators do just the opposite as the primary associators. Okay, so they're the other half, if you will, of this gravity and anti-gravity workers. Okay, and these are the beings that come to a planet and started out from nothingness. Okay, so if you think of a world, they would send these beings and they would manipulate the matter. One group would manipulate the matter with gravity, and the other half of them, the disassociators, would manipulate it with anti-gravity, and they would start all material matter functioning and everything moving. You know, when I talked about the master physical controllers and that sort of thing last time, or a couple times ago, these are the beings that actually make these manipulation of the materials on the atomic level. Okay, so they basically take the basis of all planets and get it going so it's ready to start evolving. Okay, and they work under the supreme power centers, and there's a picture of the secondary disassociators. Now, the next one's kind of hard to understand too, so let's go to the Frandalinks. Jane, would you take the Frandalinks?
Okay. The Frandalinks, these beings are the joint creation of all three orders of energy control beings: the primary and secondary force organizers and the power directors. Frandalinks are the most numerous of all the master physical controllers. the number functioning in Satania alone is beyond your numerical concept. They are stationed on all inhabited worlds and are always attached to the higher orders of physical controllers. They function interchangeably in the central and super universes and in the domains of outer space.
Now, the point I want to make sure you understand here is the Frandalanks are stationed on every single planet, and that includes ours. Okay. So are the chronodecks, and we're going to hit them in just a second. But basically, these are part of the energy control beings that are stationed on our planet, on every other planet, that keeps all the forces of the universe working on our planet. Okay, so they control the energy. They make sure we have enough energy. They keep the planet from falling apart. They keep us from getting blown up in the universe. You know, when all these people are worried about asteroids coming in and all these other things, that's these guys' job, okay, to make sure that the planet is safe and working properly. Okay, that's why these master physical controllers are so important. All right, now the next two, the master force organizers and the associate force organizers, is a little hard to understand, but I'm hoping along with the Frandalanks, the discussion of the Frandalanks, this will all come together for y'all, okay? And I've got some pictures here. I hate to go through the pictures before we get down to the written text, because the written text actually explains everything that's going on here. All right, so Gary, if you will take that first one, we'll start with the Frandalanks again.
Frandalites are created in 30 divisions, one for each form of basic universe force, and they function exclusively as living and automatic presence, pressure, and velocity gauges. These living barometers are solely concerned with the automatic and unerring registration of the status of all forms of energy, force energy. They are to the physical universe what the vast reflectivity mechanism is to the minded universe. The Frandalanks that register time in addition to quantitative and qualitative energy presence are called chronodecks.
Chronodecks. Okay, so there's two groups of the Frandalanks. One of them are just regular Frandalanks, and the others are chronodecks. Anything having to do with time are called chronodecks. Okay, so the Frandalanks basically are part of the force organizers that keep the pressures working properly so that all this atomic material can come into existence and function. Okay, and the chronodecks keep track of how it's doing over a period of time. Makes sense? So that's why one of them's like a pressure automatic being and the other's a time automatic being. Okay, and he has a little discussion about this in this next paragraph about their intelligence, and I'd like to just move on to the next one so that we have a better understanding of it. Millie, would you like to take the next one for us?
Yes. I recognize that the Frandalanks are intelligent, but I cannot classify them as other than living machines. About the only way I can help you to understand these living mechanisms is to compare them to your own mechanical contrivances, which perform with almost intelligent-like precision and accuracy. Then, if you would conceive of these beings, draw upon your imagination to the extent of recognizing that in the grand universe, we actually have more intelligent and living mechanisms or entities than that can perform more intricate tasks involving more stupendous computations with even greater delicacy of accuracy, even with ultimacy of precision.
Okay, think about this. What he's talking about here are automatic beings. This is a very difficult job they do, right? Keeping all the material matter and everything functioning properly, right? So they are intelligent, but they do it so automatically you don't even think about them thinking about it. Okay, that's kind of what he's saying here. So they're more like living machines in essence. And think about it this way: God the Father has a plan for the universe, okay, which involved creating beings like this to take care of this mundane process of keeping everything functioning properly for us, so that we don't have to worry about it. Make sense? Pretty amazing if you think about it. You know, all the way down to the atomic level. And they are talking about 30 different types of energy, most of which we don't know anything about. And they don't tell us about because it's not necessary for us to know it in this existence. All right, so it's pretty amazing when you think right down to it. Now, the next little section's the last section of this paper, and it talks about where everything comes from the beginning. Okay, so this is the master force organizers, and this is kind of difficult to understand too. So let's jump right into it. Rodney, would you take the first one, please?
Yes. The force organizers are resident on Paradise, but they function throughout the master universe, more particularly in the domains of unorganized space. These extraordinary beings are neither creators nor creatures, and they comprise two grand divisions of service. One, primary eventuated master force organizers, and two, associate transcendental master force organizers.
Okay, the first thing we need to understand is what's eventuated, right? To understand this paragraph. So eventuated beings are beings that are brought into existence by the forces of God, the deities, right? When something is needed. Okay, so the primary eventuated master force organizers come into existence as they are needed. Make sense?
Mhm.
All right.
Mhm.
The associated transcendental master force organizers are transcendental beings. And when we talk about transcendental beings, we're usually talking about Havana, aren't we? Because that's where most of the transcendental beings live. Okay. So that's the first thing you need to know. And the best way for me to explain this is this picture. Okay, so if y'all bear with me just a minute, we're going to finish this paper tonight, believe it or not, which is hard to believe, right? Okay, so take a little trip with me. All right, the first picture, see the little white arrow there?
Mhm.
This is called primordial force or pre-energy, and it's not responsive to paradise gravity. You see that?
Mhm.
That's the beginning. This is not responsive to anybody. You know where it comes from? The unqualified absolute. Okay, just that simple. All right. Then the next little thing, you see a little being inside of the air, the thing that looks like lightning. You see that?
Mhm.
This is Poussin energy. And it says here, this is the powerful directional mass movement, mighty tensioned and forcible reacting energy, gigantic energy systems set in motion by the activities of the what? The primary force organizers. Okay. This primary or Poussin energy is not at first definitely responsive to the paradise gravity pull. In other words, at this point, it's not responsive to paradise, is it? Is it
No.
useless to us? Not at all, because it's not responsive to paradise. Okay. Now, let's go down a little bit in this picture. Then comes the force organizers. And these force organizers transmute this primordial force or pre-energy, not responsive to paradise gravity, into primary or puissant energy, beginning energy, if you would. Energy transmuting from the exclusive grasp of the unqualified absolute to the gravity grasp of the Isle of Paradise. So basically, these force organizers make it responsive to paradise gravity. Does that make sense?
They
Mhm.
transform it.
Yeah, it was dormant, and then these force organizers come in, the master force organizers, and they make it responsive to paradise gravity. And from that time on, it's always responsive to paradise gravity. Okay, Jane.
Would this be the beginning of some form of life or not
This
yet?
is the beginning of all the universes. You know, all these universes that Michael are creating in our local universe right now that's not finished.
Mm-hmm.
This is what's happening out there.
What would it be called? Nebula?
It would be called nebula. That's right.
Okay.
Okay.
It's the early
So-
stages.
So this is the beginning stages of the nebula, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's go on to the next one over to the left. This is they, master force organizers, are thereupon succeeded by the associate, the next group, associate force organizers who continued the process of energy transmutation from the primary through the secondary or to the gravity energy stage. So the secondary come along and make it responsive to gravity, and then it's at the energy stage. And guess what happens there? They pass it off to the creator sons. This is how it all starts. Make sense?
Yes.
All right.
Make-
It says here at the bottom, the primary force organizers are the manipulators of the primordial or basic force, space forces of the unqualified absolute. They are the nebulae creators. Guess what a creator son needs to make his local universe?
Nebula.
Nebula.
Nebulae. That's right. So this is what gets it started. Makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that wasn't so hard after it all, was it? All right.
To remember, maybe.
Yeah, to remember maybe. So I'm going to go through this next little slide pretty quick. They, the master force organizers, are thereupon succeeded by the associate force organizers, the second group, right, who continue the process of energy transmutation from the primary through the secondary or the gravity energy stage. And then, excuse me, who the associate force organizers continue the process of energy transmutation from the primary to the secondary or gravity energy step. And then the gravity energy now appearing, gravity responsive to energy, carries the potential of universe power and becomes the active ascendant of the universe matter. And guess what they do? They pass it off to all these systems we just went through in the last couple of weeks, right? The super universe centers, the system centers, the constellation centers, and the local universe centers. And then it says, upon the completion of the plans for the creation of a local universe, signalized by the arrival of whom? A creator son. The associate master force organizers give way to the orders of the power directors acting in the super universe of the astronomic jurisdiction, but in the absence of such plans, the associate force organizers continue on indefinitely in charge of these material creations, even now operating in outer space. So all those things that's going on in outer space, these guys are keeping them going until a creator son shows up.
They're
Make
busy.
sense? They're busy. That's the whole process. All right. And these last 3 paragraphs or 4 paragraphs just explain this very thing all over again. Okay. So let's just read through it. So everybody understands. Jane, would you take the first paragraph there?
These two mighty orders of primordial force manipulators work exclusively under the supervision of the architects of the master universe, and at the present time, they do not function extensively within the boundaries of the grand universe.
Okay, think about this. Why would that be? The architects of the master universe are the ones that prepare everything for the unqualified absolute, right? They don't function exclusively in the boundaries of the grand universe because most of that's already done, right? It's prepared. It's waiting on the creator sons. All right. Let's go on to the next one. Gary, would you take the next one?
The primary master force organizers are the manipulators of the primordial or basic space forces of the unqualified absolute. They are nebulae creators. They are the living instigators of
Yes.
the energy cyclones of space and the early organizers and directionizers of these gigantic manifestations. These force organizers transmute primordial force, pre-energy, not responsive to direct planetary gravity,
Paradise
into
gravity.
primary, or what'd you say?
Paradise gravity.
Paradise gravity, okay.
Into puissant energy.
Okay. Into primary or puissant energy.
Right.
Energy transmitting from the exclusive grasp of the unqualified absolute to the gravity grasp of the island of paradise. They are thereupon succeeded by the associate force organizers who continue the process of energy transmutation from the primary through the secondary or the gravity energy stage.
Now, does that paragraph make sense to y'all?
Yes, it does.
Make a little more sense? You know, it's not just gobbledygook anymore, right? Okay. Just needed somebody to kind of explain it to you a little bit, right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Millie, would you take the next one?
Yes. Upon the completion of the plans for the creation of a local universe, signalized by the arrival of a creator son, the associate master force organizers give way to the order of power directors acting in the superuniverse of astronomic jurisdiction. But in the absence of such plans, the associate force organizers continue on indefinitely in charge of these material creations, even as they now operate in outer space.
So as we look out in the outer space zones, we see all this stuff going on. It's these guys that's keeping it going, okay, until the creator sons show up. So it's ready for them, okay? All right, and one more paragraph here. And you're our last paragraph reader tonight.
Okay. The master force organizers withstand temperatures and function under physical conditions which would be intolerable even to the versatile power centers and physical controllers of Urantia. The only other types of revealed beings capable of functioning in these realms of outer space are the solitary messengers and the inspired Trinity spirits.
And that was sponsored by Universal Censor acting under the authority of the Ancients of Days on Uversa. So these master force organizers are able to withstand temperatures that no other type of being can, except for the solitary messengers and the inspired Trinity spirits. So being out in cold space, sub-freezing temperatures doesn't bother them any, right? So that's the beginning of the universes. That's how it all starts, right? y'all have any questions about the power centers or anything in this paper, period? No,
So basically, it wasn't a big bang then.
it wasn't a big bang. That's right. It's very well organized. It has a starting point. It goes on forever and ever, and it never did have a big bang, right? So next time, we're going to talk about personalities of the grand universe, and they go through all the revealed personalities of the grand universe that we talk about. It's kind of a big list. And then we're going to hit on a lot of different things during that paper, but it's what you call the Uversa personality register. And there's a
this
lot of
like
beings in it.
Is this like a summary, the one coming up, of what
Yeah,
we
the one-
learned?
Yes, pretty much. It is, Jane. It's a summary of all the beings we've talked about today, and some that we haven't talked about yet. Some of them are the local universe suns too, and we'll discuss those as we go through them also. Right, so it's the super universe personalities. They call it the personalities of the grand universe because it encompasses all the beings in the grand universe, including all the local universe personalities. Okay, so it's an interesting paper. It's just a lot of lists, and I'm going to have a lot of things to hit on, and I won't be able to spend a lot of time on each one, but at least we'll try to have an understanding of all the sections and who's in it and what they do. Right. So at least I'll try. I've tried to figure out for years how to teach this next paper and have it be something other than just reading lists, right? 'Cause
Yes.
there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
It really is, you know. It we'll try to make it interesting anyway, right? Okay, so gosh, we made that with 8 minutes to spare. I can't believe it. All right, let's say a little prayer and we'll close tonight. Now, I need to tell everyone and the folks out in Facebook and YouTube and everybody tonight, I will be here Thursday. I will not be here next Tuesday. Okay. Next Tuesday, I have to, I'll be somewhere else at a hospital taking care of my mother. She's having some surgery. So I won't be having a meeting next Tuesday night. I will be here Thursday and I will be here next Thursday. So just let y'all know. So
We
when
won't get an invitation for that day.
you won't get an invitation for next Tuesday. You will get one for this Thursday. We'll start the personalities of the grand universe probably Thursday, and we might finish it the next Thursday. I'm not sure if we'll get through it or not. So, okay. So the next two meetings will be on Thursdays, right? Just for this next week. All right, let's say a little prayer and we'll quit for tonight. Man, Gary, would you like to close with some prayer? I don't know if you feel like it.
My mind's blank, I'll be honest with you.
That's okay. Jane,
Can
would
I
you like
make
to?
a suggestion?
Yes.
Can Letch does his prayer? Because I love to
Yes.
hear that prayer.
Yes, that would be fine. Would that be okay with you, Lex?
The St. Francis prayer.
Yes,
Yes, that
yeah.
would be fine.
If I don't miss a few lines, I'll try again.
Yeah, try it.
Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be loved as to be loved, as to love, to be understood as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, and it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying to self that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
Amen.
And thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone from home
you.
for joining us. Please come see us again. Let me stop the recording.